Hey there, welcome to Multimedia 110. I'm Professor Curtis Stage at Los Angeles Mission College, and today we're going to do a demo in Photoshop on Swiss designs. We're going to recreate this poster or something similar to it. So I have this as a reference here. This is a Müller-Brockmann poster, one of his classics. We don't have to necessarily use the same colors, but we're going to try to use them. And so we're going to get started. Now this one's in Photoshop. We're going to have the same tutorial in GIMP. So you'll see two tutorials. So if you do not have Adobe Photoshop, then this isn't the tutorial for you. You want to use the other one. That tutorial will show you how to do the same thing or close to it in GIMP. GIMP's a free program that you can download on your computer for both Mac and PC. And this is primarily for our Photoshop students who have access to Photoshop in our labs at Mission College or on their own computers. So I'm going to have this image, this Müller-Brockmann image as a reference. So I'm just going to have it over to the side here so I can look at it and kind of color pick out of it, or kind of look at colors and get it close. So once I'm in Photoshop, I am going to click Create New. And when I click Create New, you're going to see up at the top, you have a bunch of different possibilities. I want to click Print. And for print, I want to pick the 8.5 by 11 at 300 pixels per inch. And if you look over here on the right-hand side, we're going to be in RGB color. And for this assignment, we're just going to be in 8-bit, so this isn't so big of a file. And we can have a white background. So this all looks good, 8.5 by 11. 300 resolution, that's how many pixels per square inch, 8-bit RGB colors, fine. CMYK would also work for this as well. That's cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. I'm going to stick with RGB. It's just okay. And I'm going to click Create. So once I have that, it's about, similar size relationship. It doesn't have to be exact on this. You'll notice that I have a layers panel over here. Some of you are familiar with Photoshop, and this is easy for you. You have a layers panel over here. We're going to turn on a grid, so we have a little bit to work with in terms of the grid. We'll do that in a second. First off, I want to put a blue background on this. So I'm going to add a new layer in Photoshop. So you can see that I have a transparent layer over the background layer. In this transparent layer, I'm going to fill this with blue, this blue color that's in the background. So I'm going to fill that with blue. So one way to do that would be go up top to Edit, Fill, and where this dialog box is going to come up, and where it says Contents, I want to click off whatever it says. It could say foreground, background. I'm going to pick Color. When I pick Color, you'll see that I have colors in here that I can choose from. Right now, I'm going to try to get it close on here. I'm not color picking on this. I could color pick this and get direct things, but I'm going to try to just get it close. We don't have to make it the exact same thing. So this is my hue slider right here. And once I get this hue slider kind of in the blue area, I will move this around to kind of look and see. And I'm just looking back and forth between the two, and I'm somewhere in this zone right in here, it looks like. So something like this, and maybe it's a little, like that, and click OK. So you can see my number down here, hexadecimal number is 3C86EI, and that would be, if you put that number in, then you would be able to get this exact color that I have. Also, you can look here, my RGB version of it is 60, 134, and 225. So if you want to use this exact color, you can. Click OK, and then click OK to this. And there we go. We have a fill of our whole background on this layer. Okay, now before I start putting in text in these blocks, I'm going to put the blocks in first. The next thing I want to do is turn on my grid. So I'm going to go to View and Show and go to Grid. Now this grid may not be a grid that's going to be very good for me to use here. Maybe it needs to be modified. So in Photoshop, I can modify this grid by going up to Photoshop, Preferences, and I can go to Guides and Grids. Now, the guides are one thing, and we'll use those in a second too, so I'm probably going to want to change what the guides look like. But here's the grid, and I'm going to do every inch, I'm going to do a grid line, and I'm going to do one subdivision on there. And then I want my grid color, so that I've got a solid line here, and then the grid color I'm going to make pretty bright on this blue background. So I'm going to make it like a light red You could maybe try a light gray, but I'm going to try a light red on here just so I can really see that, and click OK. And there's my grid. All right, so that's going to help me out a little bit in terms of being able to line things up. Even though these things are on a slant, it's going to be able to help me out in kind of getting this the way I want it. So the next thing I want to do is create a layer that's going to then be for these shapes. And I'm going to make the big shape first, this big blue box, the darker blue. And so to make that, I'm going to go down here in Photoshop to my rectangle tool. Now the rectangle tool, it has 3 choices up in the properties or in the options bar up top. One is shape, one's path, one's pixels. We're going to pick shape, and then we're going to color pick this fill right here. We're going to click the fill, and we're going to pick a blue in here. So I'm going to pick this dark blue. It's pure violet blue right here. You should see that pure violet blue in yours. There's the color that we were using. This is your recent list of colors. Here's this pure violet blue, so it's showing that it's going right there. Okay, I don't want to stroke around this box, so I want this to have nothing there. I want this slashed line, so I don't want an outline. Now when I draw this box, this is where this grid is going to come in handy just to give me kind of a size deal here. So when I'm looking at this picture right here, and I don't have a grid overlaid over this, but I'm kind of be able to line things up using the grid and kind of using the kind of measurements here, just kind of eyeballing it. I don't have a grid laid over the top of Mueller-Brockmann's piece, but it'll help us out. But I know that I want this box to be fairly big, right, on my screen over here. So I'm going to start kind of to draw this, but before I draw it, I want to have it be on its own new layer. So I'm going to add another layer at the bottom. So I've got a transparent layer, and then I'm going to create my first box. And this first box that I'm going to make is going to be 4 by 4. Now 4 by 4 is pretty big. It's going to be 3 by 3. So that's going to help me draw that, right? Move the properties panel out of the way, but that will pop up there. Now what's cool about this properties panel in Photoshop is I can click here and change my color if I need to. Let's say I don't like any of these colors. Let's say I want to kind of change it out. I'm going to stick with this pure violet, but I could go to the RGB color slider and I could adjust that pure violet to a little bit more blue possibly if I need to. So I can kind of change it right here, and you can see where you can kind of move it around to get it to be more the color you want it, let's say. So maybe I'll do it like that and kind of get that color. Okay, so I've got one of these. Now, I'm just going to move my properties panel down out of the way, and what I want to do is I've got this layer here. This is all great. I want to make 2 more of these, because if I look at this, I've got 2 big ones, one that's fully on the screen and or on my page, and then one that's kind of cut off and one that's really cut off. So I'm going to make 2 more of these, but before I do that, I want to turn this and kind of get it in the position and get it sized right, because this isn't really the right size possibly. So let me rotate it. To do that, Command T is transform on this rectangle. So I'm going to click on the rectangle and transform it, Command T. So that will give me the keyboard shortcut to transform. And now I'm going to rotate this, and you can see that it gives me my degrees over here on the right. So when I rotate this, I essentially am looking at this grid and I'm saying, okay, what am I going to do here on this? I'm going to go about 45 degrees right there, as close as I can get there. And if you don't get it right on, you can bring your properties panel back here. Or no, you don't even need the properties panel. Up here in the options, see right up there, you can switch it to 45 right there. So 45 degrees looks about what Brockmann-Mueller had, or Mueller-Brockmann. He had about 45 degrees. So once I get that tilt the way I want it, that turn, I'm going to go to my Move tool. Let me apply the transform, right? And click yes. And then I'm going to go to the Move tool, and I'm going to move this down. So I'm going to move my properties panel again. And I want to see this kind of side by side. So I know I want this box kind of up towards the top. I'm going to say 1 grid line down. It's going to start 1 grid line down and a little closer to the wall. Again, this doesn't have to be perfect, but we want to kind of get it pretty close. So I'm going to go one grid line down with my point here and come over this way a little bit so that it looks like it's pretty close to that wall there. So that's pretty good. Pretty far over. It's a lot of room right here. So, but this thing can get bigger now. So I'm going to go back to Command T and transform. And I'm going to hold Shift down and grab a corner and just I'm going to eyeball this and kind of get it bigger. And I may have to adjust these as I go, but something like that, and hit the check mark or return on your keyboard. Okay, so I've got that one. Now I want to copy this. And again, I may have to change these sizes here in a minute once I get all three of them on there. So now I'm going to copy this. One great way to copy this is to hold down Option on your keyboard and click and drag. So now I've got this, and you can see I'm looking at the space between the objects, and you're seeing all these kind of guides come up. They're called smart guides. So that's pretty good. I'm looking at his spacing, I'm looking at my spacing. Then I want to do one more and kind of bring it down, and I'm using these guides to kind of help me. And the smart guides, if you don't have smart guides on, then I'll show you how to turn those on in a second, but I'm trying to get that one like that. Okay, so something like that. Not exactly the way he has it. Let's look at his again. We're gonna have to move these up, I think. I think they're the right size, but we're gonna have to move them up and kind of over. So how would I do that? Well, first of all, let me turn on the guides if I need them. So I'm gonna go to View, and I've got Show and Smart Guides. That helps me out quite a bit right there. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click each one of these, hold down Shift and click each one of these squares, and see how they're all highlighted over here in the Layers panel. And then I'm going to take them and drag them up, right? Not too far up, because look at where his corner is and look where mine is. It's not quite in the center, so I'm going to kind of go up and over. And I want to have this block down here to just be hitting the corner of the poster. So something like that. It's pretty close here. So it looks like looks like his blocks are just a tad bigger. And we'll just run with this like this because I think this looks pretty good. I could make them all three a little tad bit bigger to move this over to this edge. Well, maybe I'll do that. Watch, I can do all three of them at the same time. So I still have them all selected. So Command T and then hold Shift down and drag, and look at that. And drag and make, and I'm dragging a corner, by the way, to make these all bigger. And then hit return. And now they're still all selected, so I can move them all together at the same time. And I'm kind of eyeballing it. I want it to come down a little further and over. And we're just slightly off. His poster size may be slightly different. So I really want this corner to happen here. I want this one to go in this corner. I think it makes for a good composition here, so I'm not too worried about this distance right there. I'm also want to think about that distance. Okay, so that looks good. So we've got those three boxes. Now we're going to make our green boxes here, and they're smaller versions of this one. So I'm going to just pick one of these and make a copy. All right, I'm going to pick one. So I'm going to pick my first one here and make another copy. So I'm going to Option, click, and drag. Okay, now that one is right there, and it's obviously got to get smaller, but it's got to change color too. So let me double click it to change its color, and I want to go green on here. Now I'm not shifting the hue right here. I'm only going to go to the hue slider. I'm not shifting the tint and shade of this color. So this is the tint and shade area of the hue. I'm going to go to the green. So I'm going to go try to find this green. We're pretty close to it. So it's kind of down in this, and then I'm going to have to move that a little. So I guess it's kind of in here. I'm looking, and then it's going to be down there. So I'm kind of taking it. Now it's going to be a little darker than what he's got. If you look over here, it's a little darker, but that's okay because we're going to blend this here in a minute. So I'm going to click OK. So that's probably pretty good. And then, like I said, it doesn't have to be exact. And then Command T is transform. And this box, if I look at him, it looks like it's, oops, Command Z. If you make a mistake, Command Z is undo. So Command Z, undo if you make a mistake. So I'm going to grab a corner. I'm going to bring this down, and I'm just kind of eyeballing. I'm going to move it onto this box, And it looks like this box is about 1/3 the other. It's not half, but it's about 1/3 that box. So it's like about there. And if I put this here in between, you can kind of see, okay, yeah, it's about like that. Okay, so this box is going to go kind of right here. Okay, something like that. And then I'm going to hit return, and I may have to adjust that size too. And then I'm going to make a copy of this one. So Option, click, drag, and then I've got this one. You're saying, well, Curtis, but this is going underneath that, which is kind of a cool look, but I don't want it to go underneath there. It's actually going to go on top of it. So I have to go to my layer stack and move this up and move this green one up so they're all on top. So I'm changing the layer order here, right? So look, you can see there's that one. It's on the very top. Here's this one. It's on the very top. So my green guys have to be above my blue guys right here. Okay, so something like that. You can see that this is too close to the edge there, but it's kind of, these boxes may be a little bigger than I want them, but I'm going to click both of them, move it over. If I was doing it like him, it'd be like that far away, right? So it looks like I'm a little off on mine, but that's okay. So something like this. I want it to overlap the other box a little bit. So maybe they're a little smaller too. So before I make the third box, I'll kind of take these, Command T, grab a corner, transform, bring them down a little smaller here. So I've got the overlap and a little distance there. And so now I'm bringing them down somewhere in this area. And I'll look at on my grid here in a minute. But I'm going to kind of put this corner right here on that grid line. That kind of seems logical. Again, we're just using him as a reference, but we want to organize it the way we want to kind of do it. So now I just want to do one of these. I want to make a copy of this one and drag it up there to get my third box. So I'm going to do Command or Option click and drag this up here and get that space using my smart guides. Should help me kind of line this up. Kind of not, but there we go. Something like that there. And if you need to nudge it, you can use your arrow keys up and down on your keyboard to nudge the boxes. So something like this. Now we need these three colors to blend with those blue colors. So these three boxes need to blend with the blue boxes. So I'm going to highlight click all three of these. I can do it in a layer or on them. And I want to change their blend mode. So I've got them all selected. And I'm going to go here where it says normal on the top of the layers panel. And we can go through some of these blend modes. So the top area is to knock out any lights. So if I went to darken, it's pretty close, right? It's kind of maybe what we want. Multiply to dark. All right, color burn, not going to work. Linear burn, not going to work, and darker colors, not going to work. Okay, so then if I go to lighten, it's going to knock out the darks. So this area, lighten to lighter color, is not going to work. So this knocks out any of the lights within the image. So as I was on darken, you can kind of see through it a little bit. When I'm in this area, it's not going to have any lights. Well, I don't want to do that. So then I want to switch this. This knocks out any 50% grays. So if I go to overlay, it's going to really change this quite a bit. Or soft light, really going to change that. Hard light is probably going to be our closest. So that's the one that I might go with, is this hard light. But let me check vivid light. Nope, not going to work. Linear light, not going to work. Pin light is looking, it's kind of cool looking though, but a little too. And then hard mix. But you can see these blend mode with each other, and it makes for pretty cool, right, effects. So this is how one group of objects blends with a group below it based off color. So this area right here deals with 50% gray, and hard light I think is going to be our best option right here. Now my greens are just slightly off compared to his. His are a little bit dingier, but it's about right on there, right? Okay, so I like that. Now our next step here is I'm going to now focus on some text here. And it looks like that he was using probably Helvetica, all lowercase. We're not going to, you can type whatever you want, by the way. Some people have done like kind of music bands, updated Mueller-Brockman posters that are like for the Smiths or the Cure or Foo Fighters or Nirvana or whatever. You'll see those online. You can even buy those posters. People are basically ripping off Mueller-Brockman and they're creating Swiss design style rock posters. It's kind of cool actually. So we can use whatever text we want. So our goal is going to be just kind of to look at this spacing here and how he's got that. And we don't need to put everything that's in here, but let's get some things going. So I'm going to go to my change tools. I'm going to go to the type tool. And in the type tool in the options bar up top, I'm going to select Helvetica. So if you don't see it right away, you can kind of start typing in right here, HE, and then you'll kind of see different Helveticas in here. And I'm going to pick the Helvetica regular for actually, maybe we'll go with Helvetica bold on this. That's a pretty good one. You should have Helvetica bold on your computer. If you don't, you can kind of, and you can also see it right here once you get going. So I'm going to go, if you can pick Helvetica regular if you need to, but I'm going to go bold on this and see what that looks like. Now, I'm not going to worry about the size yet, but this is my size. And then if I spread Photoshop out a little bit more, here's my color. And I want that color to be black. So let me show you that is in right here. Here's my color, and I want this to be black. Click OK. All right, nice. So when I click here, I'm going to move this over just again. I'm going to click here, and I'm not worried about it tilting quite yet or the size yet, but clearly I need it to get bigger. So I'm going to just drag these two T's over to the right just to get my text bigger here. So I'm going to concentrate on this big font right here. Right? I'm going to concentrate on that first. So when I have that going, maybe I can kind of now think about what I want to put as a text here. So this could be whatever you guys want to do. This is up to you. Have fun and get creative with this. I'm going to put in, let's see, I'm going to put in all lowercase. I'm going to do that, and maybe something like that. So Los Angeles music scene. Okay. So if I don't like the size, if I feel like it needs to get a little bigger, I can highlight that, my text. I can go up here to the T's and just drag that a little bigger. Great. And then I'm going to do Command T and transform this. So Command T. So I'm going to click on it, right? Command T gives me that. And then I'm going to turn this to that same 45-degree angle. Again, if you don't get it right here, don't worry about it. Like, see, mine's slightly off, because right up here on the top of the options bar for the transform tool, I can put in 45 right there. So 45 degrees. I want that to match the blocks, right? So I want to apply this and go to my move tool. My move tool is right up here on the toolbar to move this around. So now this move tool, I'm going to kind of bring this down and over, and I'm kind of eyeballing it a little bit on this grid. But again, we'll kind of use the grid here more in a second. So I'm going to just kind of place it in there and kind of eyeball it where I want it to be. So something like that, kind of close to the blocks, something like this. Now, the next thing I want to do is get the next three texts that are in here, and they're the same size. So I want these three, and they're the same size. So I'm going to click on this one and copy it. So I'm going to option click, because it's already got the angle. Yes, it's too long, but I'm going to copy that. And so I option click and drag, and then I've got a new one, and then I can double click the T over here, and it'll highlight this, and I can put in the bands that I want to put in, let's say. So if I'm thinking about Los Angeles music scene, maybe I'll pick Ty Segall, so something like that. I think it's 2 L's for Ty Segall, right? So that's that one. So I'll hit my apply it, and then I'm going to copy this one, right? Or maybe I'll put it down here, not too far over there. Then I'm going to copy this one, hold down option, click and drag, and then I'm going to kind of line that one up the best I can. Double click the T so I can edit that one, and this one will be, oops, all lowercase. and I'm going to do fuzz. These are just bands that are related to each other. I'm not going to hit return on that. I'm just going to click my move tool, and then I've got that. And then I'm going to do an option click and drag, same thing. And I'll get these lined up a little bit better here in a second. So now I'm going to double click that one and GOGS. Oops, I keep doing capital. These are all bands that, and then I could do one more, but there's 3. Okay, so move tool. So now I want to line these up, and there's really this diagonal, right? I want to line them up. And where I'm lining these up, if you look, he's got them lined up on this line right here. So if you look, this green square, they're lined up along the edge of that green square. So I want these bands to come down and line up as close as I can to that green square right there. And I'm just kind of going to do that. And if I look here at where is that line, so this line kind of comes down, and then it's a little bit off that line. I cannot bring a ruler in at that angle, unfortunately. So this is just going to have to be like this. But I'm going to kind of put them in here and kind of line it up like this. Now, what I can do is to get this lined up better is, again, I can zoom in, Command plus and Command minus. So I'm going to do Command plus and move up and kind of zoom in a little bit better. And then I can really get these kind of lined up a lot better. You know, kind of clicking on each one of these. So I've clicked on the fuzz layer, and now I can kind of, I'm going to use that point right there, right? And then this one will kind of line up. I'm looking at this L, and then this S will line up on that as well. And I'm looking at this space between these and just kind of trying to slide this in, and just do your best on that. Okay, so we got something like that. Now, if I want to get it kind of more perfect, I would have to add more grid lines in here, right, to be able to really kind of see where these things are lining up. So to do that, I can go back to preferences, and I can do guides and grids, and I can do subdivisions like 4. Let me add a 4 on there and click OK. And now I can kind of see these individual boxes, so I can kind of see this a little bit better in terms of where I want these. So if I look at the S here, so they're all taken up about the same amount of space. So maybe I want that Z, the line of the Z, I'm in real close. So I'm zoomed way in, Command plus, and I want that Z right on this corner here, or close to it. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to kind of fine-tune this a little bit by rotating our canvas. In Photoshop, we can do that. So right here down on our toolbar, you're going to see the hand tool, this guy right here. But if I go to the rotate view tool, I can rotate this, and I want to rotate it so that it is at 45 degrees. Minus 45 degrees. If I do minus 45 degrees, then I'm getting this straight, right? Then I can see what I've got here. So this is going to help me line things up. Like I said, we're just kind of eyeballing it, and then we can line it up more perfectly. So I'm rotating the whole canvas. We'll reset it back in a minute. So that's reset view. Okay, so now once I have it rotated, this helps me kind of line things up better. Now I can't really pull in a guide because look at how the guides come in. They come in on your original document. So that kind of stinks. So the guide won't really work there, unfortunately. But it at least gives me, when I zoom in on this, it gives me kind of a better idea if these things are kind of lined up. So I like to Command plus, use the space bar to move myself around, and then go to my move tool, and I can really see if these things are lined up. So I can kind of go like this and just see, and you're kind of, you know, unfortunately you can't lay a ruler down there, but you can kind of see this, and I'm just kind of imagining there's a line. So I want to kind of maybe just adjust this a little bit. So maybe the Z, maybe the top of the Z is right there. I could say, okay, well then my S is going to go right there. So it's on that line, and then my L is going to kind of come right in that area right there. So I can use these corners to kind of make this happen. The S, maybe it does have to come back over, so the edge of the S will be on that line. I'm looking right at that intersection right there where that diamond comes together. Okay, so something like that is going to be kind of good. So that'll work. So and then if I look up here, I can kind of see, use my space bar to move me around, and I can kind of see where this one's at, how this one's lined up. And I can also see if these are lined up perfectly. Look at that, they're slightly off. So I can kind of see that this box needs to be nudged down just a little bit. So I can click on a rectangle and click up here on any one of these things. So I think that's this one. Yep. And when I click on that, I can use my move tool and nudge it with my arrow. Let's move my, I guess I have to lock this, lock my text so I don't move it. So now I can go down here, find out which one this is. I'm going to turn the eyeball off. There it is. So I'm going to click on rectangle 1 and nudge it just down because it was not lined up perfectly with the other one. And if I look going across, right, and go this way, and see that one's up a little bit. So I'm going to bring this one down, and I can use my arrow keys to nudge this. And then I can look and say, okay, well, what's the space between these? Could the space be equal, like one diamond shape distance, to really make it perfect? So I mean, it's a little big, but I could kind of go, okay, I want it to line up like there and there and there and there. So now we're really getting on this grid here where I'm using this diamond to separate those two out. So let me move down the line here, and this one's not quite on that, but I can kind of visualize it and say, okay, well, it was there and there, so I got to move this one about equal distance from the other one. So something like that would be good. And if I zoom out, then you're going to see those are going to be then perfectly lined up. And if I go back to my rotate tool and I reset view, now I've got them set right. And let me kind of go back and rotate it again, back to 45. And again, I don't need to get it exactly, perfect here, but I can drag it, and I just want to double check that I'm at minus 45. Now I can go up and check these boxes up here and say, okay, I'm going to go to my move tool, and I want them about the same distance apart. So let me Command plus, zoom in, and move those. They're smaller, so maybe they don't go as far. I don't know. So I'm going to move this one and keep them on the same line. They look like they're lined up pretty good. So I could move this one and this one like that. So I've got them kind of both on the corner. And then I go here, and that one's a little off. So it's off this way. So I have to kind of split the difference here, right? You can see where it is on that diamond. So I've got to do the opposite on that side. So there's where I'm kind of eyeballing it a tad, but they're on the same line, and this space is about the same as that space. So now I've got that about as perfect as I can get that, right? And now I can return this by going back down here to the rotate tool and reset view. So something like that. Now they're a little wide, right? They're a little wider, but they are perfectly gridded out. If I want them closer together, like Mueller-Brockmann's, then I could add more grids. So you can always just kind of tweak this. So I can go to, Photoshop, Preferences, Guides, Grids, and I say, well, maybe I want 8 subdivisions. Click OK. So now I'm even closer in. So I'm going to rotate this back again to negative 45, something like that. And then I'm going to zoom in. So I'll go back to my Move tool on my toolbar and zoom in. It's all about saying, okay, well now I've got this more precise. So let me start on one side and say, okay, I want to look at this and go, where do I want these things? So maybe I want to put them, they're just too far apart. So maybe I want to do it like that, where it's one diamond here and 2 half diamonds there, right? So I'm really kind of looking at and get this one perfect right on that edge there. Something like that. Then I'll go, okay, so I got basically 1 diamond width and 2 halves. So I'm going to do the same thing there. Look, that's a half. So this works out good because now I can kind of do this because I've got the 1 diamond. So this was actually better to make the 8 subdivisions. So now that's going to be a much closer thing. So now let me go up here to these guys and do the same thing. So I'm going to move this one. I'm going to move this one this way. And yes, this is going to work. See, math is nice. So here we go. I've got 1 diamond in between, and I've got a half diamond that's right there and there. So that's pretty good. It's right on. And then go to this one, big space. So I've got that one's a little bit off, slightly off. It's weird. It shouldn't be that off. Maybe like, it should be like that. It should be like right there. And this one should be right there. So I've got that. And then this one will just have to come up. So it's just slightly off, but that's better. Okay. Now when I go back to rotate and reset view and then zoom out, Command minus, now I've got those looking the way I want. I can clear my guides now. I can go view and then go to, go clear everything here. I can go to show and uncheck the grid, right? So view, show, and get rid of the grid. And now I've got something like that. So that looks really nice. So we're kind of there, and then he had some small text there. I'm not going to really worry about that. So something like this, but if you want to add then the small text, you've got it set now. But one last thing, of course, now that I've moved these green blocks over, I want this text to also go on that line, right? So I want to pick all 3 of those, and because that's going to be my line that they're on. And I'm going to go to my move tool and move, oops, it was moving my background layer. I want to unlock these guys because I locked them earlier. Maybe I'll lock all the rest of those, but sometimes locking your layers is good. So I can click here, hold shift down, and hit the lock, and it'll lock everything below so that I'm only moving this text. So now I can hold shift down and select these 3 things, and now I can move them. I'm just going to eyeball this. So looks like it's pretty good there. It's coming down that line, so that's pretty nice. And then my space, I can make that come down. And then I could put some other text there, like, you know, some of the clubs that they're maybe playing at or something like that could happen, right? So that would be adding more. These could also maybe get bigger if I wanted to. I could experiment with sizes. So maybe I want them to be a little bigger than the Los Angeles music scene. So I've got them all selected, right? But so I can kind of just double click and get in here and say, okay, let me drag one and say I want them to be at 140, so maybe 140 pixels, and go to the fuzz, double click it, and type in 140. So I'm on the options bar up here, typing in the 140, hit return, and then do the Ty Segall, and go up here. They were 117. Again, at first I was just eyeballing everything, but then maybe it's just a matter of kind of getting them the way you want them. And now I need to reline them up a little bit. So I'd probably want to turn my, grid back on and do this, but I want to line them up with this line. So again, I would rotate this -45. And then I can go in here and say, okay, with my move tool, go over here and kind of click on each one. So I'm going to go to the Ty Segall first and kind of line this up. Maybe turning my grid back on would be good. So I turned that off a little prematurely. So I'm going to go to View, Show, Grid, and zoom in. But I want to zoom in just enough so I can see both these things. So it's coming in here. Let's see. If I look at this closely, it's like 1, 2, 3 squares over, I guess. So it it's on the same one here. So it's hard to kind of get that line there. Unfortunately, you can't kind of do your guides so that they go the same direction that you're putting these. But so then fuzz. So you have to click on each layer and move it. And then the Gogs one I'll move over. Still going. So something like that. And again, I can nudge these with my arrow tools, arrow on my keyboard, and I can nudge them just ever so slightly if I need to kind of get them looking perfect. So something like that. That's kind of nice. I actually like that because if we had it tilted this way, they're like kind of right over that edge there. Again, if I could bring a guide in that would help me, it would be great because I could turn that guide. And just Photoshop for some reason doesn't let you do that, where you can kind of rotate your guide as well. I don't know why it doesn't do that, but anyways, so there we go. So now I'm going to rotate this back, reset view, zoom out, and now I've got my Müller-Brockmann inspired Swiss poster. So now what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to save this. This is a Photoshop document, right? You don't want to give me this file. So I want to go to, first of all, you probably want to save this. So file, save as, and save it somewhere on your, computer or whatever. So you're going to say Swiss, probably, Swiss design, right? So you'll want to save this, and notice that it's a PSD. That's a Photoshop document. So I'm going to save that there. So there we go. It's got all the layers. So that's a Photoshop document, just in case we need to go back and re-edit it. Now I want to go to File. This is for you guys to upload to Behance and to Canvas, because you're going to want to upload this to the assignment in Canvas. So I'm going to go to File, Export, Quick Export as a PNG. Once you have the PSD, we're great. And now this will be a PNG, and you don't have to worry about anything else. It should go right in the same place you just saved your Photoshop document to, and click Save. And then what you'll have is, I'm going to minimize this, and then here it is on my desktop, so you can see the PNG, and I can just use my space bar to open that up, and there we got it. Right? So we've got our Swiss design. That's the one you're going to want to upload to the social media, to Behance, and to our Canvas. Now you can do different colors on this, so don't feel like you have to do the colors that I'm doing. Maybe do a few of these posters and have fun with it. I want you to do at least one though, right? So you want to turn in at least one, but if you want to turn in more than that, great. On Behance, you can put them up there and start making a series of them, because once you do one, you can kind of do an offshoot of them and change colors around and see what else you can come up with. All right. So that has been our tutorial on creating a Swiss design poster following the Müller-Brockmann style, and we'll talk to you soon.